Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about pain. I wanted to take some time to really give this topic a little bit of attention just because I think it's really relevant right now. A lot of my patients I really am thinking about and concerned about. They come and see a physical therapist regularly as a way by which to manage their pain. And right now with shelter in place orders in place, it just PT is not a super essential function. And so a lot of people are probably in similar situations, right? Where they're having a fair amount of pain and can't go get a massage or can't see a chiropractor or physical therapist, things that they do to typically manage their pain. And what complicates that even more is that we're really stressed out right now. Even if we're not outwardly stressed or even consciously feeling stressed, the uncertainty and the change is a stimulus to our nervous system that can make pain worse. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about what pain is and why things make it worse, kind of in layman's terms. So to start, I want to just begin by saying that pain is not a bad thing. Pain is a really, really useful thing. Pain is not a perception either. It is an output by our brain. So our brain is constantly receiving stimulation. All of our senses are constantly bombarding our brain with information about where we are in space, what we're doing. So those five senses, and then we've got our thoughts, and there's a ton of stimulation going on there. Pain is when your brain attunes to a certain stimulus and it produces an output consciously and says, that's painful. And it's useful, like I said. So think about if you sprain your ankle, it hurts so that you know not to walk on it and let it heal. Similarly, if you put your hand in fire, it hurts so you know to take your hand out of the fire. Now, in, like I said, a normal situation, that is how this works. Our brain gets stimulation and it consciously processes it, and then it brings it to our conscious attention. So it's whether or not our brain is attuning to it and whether or not it's choosing to bring it to our conscious awareness. That's what pain is when it's brought to our conscious awareness. So a great example of this is that you probably are totally unaware of what your shirt feels like on your back until somebody brings it to your attention, and then you're like, oh yeah, I can feel my shirt on my back. But think about the hours you've been spending with a shirt on your back and you weren't paying any attention to that sensation. Your brain wasn't attuning to it, so you weren't conscious of it. Really similarly, have you ever cut your hand and thought, I thought I cut my hand. It didn't really hurt. And then you see that it's bleeding and then all of a sudden it hurts. That's just that you've gotten an extra piece of information, stimulated your brain in a different way, and now it has produced that conscious awareness and brought that pain to the forefront of your mind. So this happens all the time. This is going on all the time. Your brain is trying to determine what it attunes to. But if your brain is really kind of hyper-stimulated by all the things that are going on right now, you could become what we call centrally sensitized. And that means that you're more apt to perceive pain when a stimulus isn't actually something that should elicit pain. So if you're somebody, this is particularly true for people that have chronic pain, so pain that has gone on for 6 months or longer. Now, I fall into that category. I had a back injury 2 years ago, which I know I have healed from, but last week I had a lot of back pain, and I really wanted to blame it on my workout. I wanted to blame it on this, that, and the other thing, but really and truly, it was just that I was stressed out, and the workout, the move that I did, wasn't stimulus enough to injure me, but it was enough stimulus for my brain to react with pain. And so what pain is, it's like an alarm. So if you think about a house alarm, when somebody breaks into your house, it sets the alarm off, and that's a good thing. That's how it works. Like when you sprain your ankle, you need to have that painful stimulus to say like, oh gosh, okay, I am going to not walk on my ankle so that it heals. And that's a really normal response to acute pain. So insidious pain, like an injury, like spraining your ankle. Now, when we have chronic pain in the absence of an injury or tissue damage, it doesn't mean that your pain is any less real. It's just that now the alarm system is much more sensitive. So where before somebody had to break in to set the alarm system off, somebody just walks across your lawn and the alarm gets set off. And that's kind of what happens when we get centrally sensitized. And a bunch of things can contribute to central sensitization. Not getting enough sleep is a huge component. Stress is a huge component. Poor nutrition is a big component. Lack of movement is another component. So all of these things that we know help to keep our nervous system in check and keep our nervous system from keeping that, or letting the threshold be where it's supposed to be, instead of having like a super lowered threshold. Normally, like I said, let's think about somebody breaking into the house. That's a pretty appropriate threshold, but somebody walking across your lawn is not threshold enough to set the alarm off, or at least it shouldn't be. So right now, I know that a lot of my patients are experiencing more pain, and I really don't think it's because they're not getting PT. I think that's a component, but I think that the stress and our nervous systems are just so amped up that now that threshold is much lower, and it's much easier for something innocuous to cause a pain response. So I think that the biggest takeaway from this that I want everybody to know if you're dealing with chronic pain is that there are things that we can do aside from stretching, aside from foam rolling, aside from just addressing our physical tissue, our muscles, or our joints. And those things are getting adequate sleep, breathing, and making sure that you are just moving your body in some way for 30 minutes every day. I really encourage people to be doing some gentle walking, or even if it's just gardening or moving outside of your home for 30 minutes. 30 minutes of consistent movement, really good sleep, and 5 minutes, if not more, of really deep diaphragmatic breathing. And all three of those things have been shown to be effective in controlling persistent pain. So if you're somebody that deals with that type of pain, or somebody that has, really encourage them to implement those strategies, because that can be really, really beneficial during this time when we don't have all of our resources available to us. I hope you guys are all doing really well, and thank you for watching.